thought I'd share with you the early part of my day. I'm in the middle of a very deeply revelatory process at the moment, having come across something that I was directed towards decades ago, and I just wasn't ready. I just went straight into resistance. And it's this Myers-Briggs personality type, which I'm sure many of you will be very much more familiar with than I am. So, Myers-Briggs personality test. That's a really helpful thing to do. And if, like myself, you discover that you're an INFJ, with definitely a stroke P going on there, so INFJ stroke P, it really does sum me up perfectly, then you might find, when you go through the experience of finding that out for the first time, it might cause you to totally reevaluate your life, yourself, what you do, what you don't do, and why. So I'm in the middle of that at the moment, and it's a delicious 4:15 in the morning, and I've been awake for a long time because I'm in the middle of this process of understanding and digesting what's going on. I spend so much time in service to other people, interested in other people, focused on them, helping them, working with them, and it's very easy to forget yourself. So I guess this is the first big revelation I've had. Now I understand that I'm INFJ, it's totally to be expected. I'm going to be wanting to focus on other people and what their situations are and to get involved. And yet it's very important I remember to give myself time, to be in service to myself. There's a wonderful woman who was a client of mine, Wendy, used to say, the gift of being unconditional with yourself. So I'm now tuned into one of my qualities, and it's the last quality in the list. It's the extroverted sensing. And that's going on right now as I'm stretching my sensory apparatus out into the environment and listening to the sound of the morning birds, feeling the air blowing across my skin, looking at the richness and the colour of the endless shades of green, which is where I live in the summer, but also all the year round pretty much, but especially in the spring and the summer. The intensity and the vividness of the green, which is more obvious later in the day. It's subtle now, muted shades. So I feel such a sense of satisfaction and relief, because this is one of the few times I can come on this walk and there's a really high probability I won't meet anyone, and that feels like such a relief. That sense of knowing I won't be disturbed feels so good. So a bit more about the INFJs then. Introverted, that's the first one, isn't it? That sense of needing to go within is so obvious when you think about it. You contemplate it, consider it. But also the strength of the intuition as well. I had a great moment yesterday. My partner was wondering whether she could apply lemon oil to her skin directly for bites. And I just sat for maybe 3 or 4 seconds and just said, actually, no, that would not be helpful for your skin. You'd have to dilute it. And she said, oh, okay. Proceeded to read the label, said exactly the same thing. The label is in such small print, I can't be bothered to read it, but the intuition knew. So one of the biggest things about an INFJ is to realise that the majority of people might find you strange, and that's really their issue. And your life's purpose is to celebrate yourself exactly as you are and to realise that you are a gift because you are a rarity. 1% of the population, something like that, maybe less. So we're rare, like diamonds scattered through the grasses. So that's the next thing, is increase self-respect. Because with that judging nature, it's so easy to be aware of our own shortcomings, to know how we want to improve ourselves, and that is one of our greatest strengths and gifts, the fact that we're capable of doing that. It may seem shocking to you, but people without this INFJ quality might not necessarily even consider that something to do, but we do. We do analyse ourselves, we do notice our shortcomings, and we're constantly on the drive to improve through learning, through our own experience, and of course especially from the experience of others who we trust, admire and appreciate. This is all a really great way to address the issue, and the issue for the INFJ is how can I constantly improve myself? How can I constantly learn and develop, become more aware, more of use in the world, more helpful to other people? Because this is what drives us, isn't it? This is one of our really big drives, to be of service in the world. And we know that when we are in service to the world, we feel great. But here comes the biggest paradox of all, which is if we're not very careful, we can simply overgive to the point of exhaustion and collapse. And speaking personally, this is one of my favourite dark sides about myself, because I'm so adept at overextending myself and over helping to the point of collapse. Which is why I had the illness for 10 years called ME, and it's only in this last week I've realised the reason why that illness a long time ago, for 10 solid years, is because I just didn't understand about the importance of going within, about the importance of time for myself. I didn't get that, but I do now. Over the last few years I've been increasingly aware of it, but it's only in the last week that I've thoroughly grasped and understood it. Something about the sounds of a non-human world which is so intensely nourishing, revivifying, and cause for celebration. That's how I feel. Maybe you do too. So let's read what comes up to be said next. Something else I've grasped, and I give gratitude to I Speak People. That's a YouTube channel you could do with checking out if you like this one. Very different approach, but such a lot of profound wisdom and insight. So it's this understanding that we need to keep a real good awareness on how other people affect us, because there are human interactions and relationships and communication experiences that do serve us well, that do nurture us. And there are the others, of which, of course, you're only too familiar, where after being with that person, and sometimes it's even for a short length of time, you feel drained. Yeah, that's something to be aware of, isn't it? So, I don't know about you, but I've developed various strategies to deal with that. And one of them is just to take myself off quietly for 10 minutes, a little walk outside, just a little bit of time away from that person. And this brings up another point, which is that the reason, there's so many, but one reason that we need time on our own is so we can absorb and digest experiences. Because as we're learning is one of our main functions in life, and need to learn, then it's important to take that time out away from that source of energy drain, just to work out what's going on. And to remember, if you're ever with a person that you feel is draining your energy or is toxic in any way, if you're choosing to be in that situation, it's because you're learning more. That's right, there must be something more that you're learning, otherwise you wouldn't be there, would you? Or it could be that you have such compassion for what the person's going through that your needs are subordinate to theirs. That's perfectly possible too. But I suppose this is what I'm saying, is to remember, in all occasions, the situations of people that drain your energy, to realise there's something to be learnt here. It might be, this is an experience I'm not willing to repeat. And that's a very valuable learning, let's face it. Or it could be, I'm learning strategies to cope with and deal with situations when I can feel I'm being challenged with a level of toxicity, and yet I can choose to remain in this connection so I can be of assistance. But let's see how I can adapt and organise myself so I can handle this as best as I can. Certainly one thing for me is having a smoke. It's such an unpopular thing today, in today's world of judging smoking and smokers. And for some of us, it can provide a quality of inestimable value. And I'm going to take a break and see if I can explain that in more detail. Because on this walk, there are places to sit. How perfect. So I've just taken a little time out to smoke. And this is what I want to say about smoking. It can give the INFJ the capacity to organise themselves inside. A kind of internal organisation process. And for those who smoke tobacco, the key quality to be aware of when you're smoking tobacco is you're adjusting to your circumstances. This is a very powerful thing to do, very helpful. If you smoke the cannabis plant, then what you're going to be tuning into is going to be the qualities of the card, the Fool, in the tarot deck, which is innocence. And innocence is best understood as your inner senses. That's right, so this is about going within, so it's about the time alone. One of the biggest issues that INFJs have is to find a way to explain this to others that they're close to, so that that other person can understand. And this is something I'm still working on very definitely. And it's partly the recharge, it's partly the ability to really extend yourself. And this is why I'm always drawn to be in nature when there are no people around, because it means I can extend my senses really wide and take in everything in my environment. And this soothes the soul. And the way that some INFJs deal with this issue is to make sure that they're always awake when the majority of people are asleep. It's not often I get to enjoy this in the morning, but I just feel such a sense of gratitude when I do. The other time, of course, is late in the evening when most people have gone to bed. These are both key times. And if you're in a relationship with someone, it can be challenging for them to understand this need. And so I feel the key word for it is to recharge. Because if I can explain to those I'm close to that it's simply my need to recharge and digest all my experience of being with you, that helps them to get a handle on it. And it's also really helpful if you can explain that by having this time as much as you need, that enables you to be more present when you're with them. And this is one of our most extraordinary gifts, is that when we're with a person and our need for alone time is satisfied, it means we can give to them in a way that few other people are capable of doing so. So again, it's this understanding that you, just the way you are, is your greatest gift to the world as well as to yourself. Because let's face it, the INFJ is always concerned about others. Even when we don't see those people, we may be drawn to consider their situation and contemplate what's going on for them, and to want to offer some insights. And I guess that's the other thing to realise. Yeah, your insights are valuable. As an INFJ, your insights are of great value to other people. That's why it's so important to nurture yourself so you can give more effectively and more completely to the person that you care to spend your time with. Whether it's a casual friendship or a fully committed relationship with a partner. And to consider all your interactions as potential gifts for the other person and for yourself. Because let's face it, we learn so much from other people, don't we? So very much. Which is why when we've had an intense experience of learning about being with someone, we then want to be on our own. So we can process that experience. It's all about learning, and it's all about achieving that drive to be more effective, more useful, more helpful to others. I'm just aware of the aeroplane overhead. I think there's always people in that aeroplane all having an experience of life, doing what they're doing. And yet to feel it's far enough away that I can continue with my own experience here. A really big theme in this presentation is the gratitude. And one of the things we can do in our learning track as INFJs is to look for and discover those moments where we can appreciate what we're experiencing. So if you can tune into that appreciation, it helps you to feel so good. And that's a really intense form of nurturing of the self. Just discovering what you can be grateful for in your moments, in your day. And I'm just so grateful to be awake and alive, to be able to take this walk with you and to share with you one of the most satisfying things about my life. When you got to see in this film for the first time just how close it is to where I live. It really was such a short walk through the houses, wasn't it? Out of the town, into the countryside. So let's talk about discharge. Smoking is something that does help me to discharge accumulated energy very rapidly and efficiently. And it's very easily available. What's much less easily available for most of us is to be able to have what I call a water experience. And that's to remove your clothes, have your swimwear on if it's a place where you might be observed. To get into a body of water and totally immerse yourself in it, even just for a few seconds. Something about that really just cleanses. And it's biblical, isn't it? The idea of baptism. It's been understood by religions that water has a great power to cleanse and to heal, to detox, to let go of stuck emotions. Very, very helpful. And if ever you get an opportunity to go into the sea, where the waves are strong, that literally has the ability to beat those toxins out of your system. It's really great. A much simpler one is just to be outside. In my case, with the plants. That's just so helpful. And take the time in nature to tune in to particular plants on your walk. And to slow down and to stop. And to spend some time with that plant or plants. Just to sense them. Just to be aware of their nature. How they show up and their presence, and they just radiate presence all the time. That's what they're doing, they're always radiating presence. And that's a clue for us about how we can be of help to others. It's often not so much in the words that you say, but just being present with that person or with those people. They can derive so much benefit from you being present to them and what they're experiencing. So here we are, yeah, that's right, this is the venue of my closest water experience. If you haven't seen my film on water experience, I'll very briefly recap. When I immerse myself in the water, what happens is I get a big blood pressure drop. And the body then moves to compensate, and I get a rise in blood pressure to balance. And those steps happening causes a massive release of endorphins, which are the chemicals in the body, in the endocrine hormonal system, that causes us to have such feelings of well-being and to feel so good. That's really valuable. And of course, as I've already mentioned, there's a detox and the release of accumulated energy. And then there's that sense, whatever time of year I do this, whether it's January or June, there's that warmth that comes over my body that also feels really good. And I'm aware of it particularly in the minutes afterwards, how my skin feels so alive and refreshed. And it's a strange thing, but slightly alkaline water I find is the best drink. But for the skin, slightly acid water is ideal, which is what this is. The rainfall, the water is being washed through layers of peat in the soil. That makes it slightly acid. So that's just so good for the skin. So So yes, it's time for me to have my water experience. Excuse me. I've just come out of my water experience and given myself a drying off. And I want to introduce a terminology which I find really helpful, which is what we call looping back. It's something I find I'm very keen to do, is to return to a subject which I haven't completed, so I can give a bit more insight to it. So I spoke about kind of this rating to the card, there's the Tower of the Fool, Innocence, and I'm also now going to relate that plant with the card, the Priestess. And this Priestess card is really extraordinary. When you look at the curly froth image, what you've got is a woman, and she's sitting on a throne, and she's got all these resources at her feet. She's got her magical weapon on her lap, and she's reaching up her arms to embrace the energy of the moon, which represents fantasy, active imagination, creative visualization, and active meditation. And this is why the Rastafarians know the cannabis plant to be really helpful for what they call the meditation process. So tuning in, being fully aware of what's going on, and allowing the insights to come. So that's another great advantage of working with that plant if you smoke or choose to work with it in some other way. So something else that's come to me is that we need to be able to sense, and we need our inward time, our time to reflect, but also to realise that INFJs need people. We need to give. There's such a strong motivation. That's how we learn so much, so we can give. So I'm looking forward this morning to do some story readings for my partner, and also for a sister's friend. Really looking forward to doing that. And it's what I'm talking about, because I've been aware of needing to do this astrology reading for this, my partner's sister's friend, for some time, some weeks actually, more than a month. But I just didn't feel it was the right time. And this morning feels the right time. It feels the getting up early in the morning, the walk, the filming, the water experience, the smoke, all this is helping me to communicate what will be useful to this person. That's really helpful to be aware of too. So the next thing I want to speak about is sensing into the details of life, and to take every opportunity you can to be really present to what's going on. So what I'm doing now is I'm just so present to the taking my steps to climb up this rather tricky slope, choosing just the right place to put my feet to move forward. So sensing into the details is a phrase I love, and it's called declining into minuteness. The idea of just getting smaller and smaller into your observations of what's going on, where I'm putting my feet. And that sense of achievement, achieving the path, and taking my steps along the path back home. And it's sensing into the gratitude. I'm so blessed to have Waxara in my life. She's the most extraordinary partner for me. And I feel such appreciation for her. So many aspects of who she is, how she chooses to express herself. And I'm so grateful, because one of the primary driving forces is the experience of love. So what a delightful partner for me to be experiencing in my life. Great deal of gratitude for her. And also gratitude for the years that I experienced without her, which then helps me to appreciate her even more. And so now it's just surrendering into the rhythm of one foot in front of the other. And what's particularly pleasurable about this experience of the walk back is there's a steady slope downwards. Such an easy walk, just feeling gravity just pulling me along. And it's all so automatic, one foot in front of the other, feeling the stick that I might stand on as I do that, or the smoothness of the path. All the roughness of the stones I encounter is all declining into minuteness, and being aware of the detail in life. This can be intensely nourishing. And so now I'd like to give gratitude to you, the viewer. To me, it's something I still don't take for granted. This incredible freedom to have a device and to be able to communicate with you about whatever arises. We're so fortunate to live in a time where this is possible for many of us. It's also worth remembering that you've got something to say too, and to find the ways that work for you to communicate. And what I love is the capacity of trees to draw my attention, because I'm just walking along and all of a sudden I just have to stop and take in the majesty and the complexity of these branches. These trees are in relationship, and to know their roots extend 2 to 3 times deeper than the upward growth that we witness, and to know that all trees are connected by this incredible network of fungi called the mycorrhiza. And these fungi literally enable trees to communicate with each other. And that's another thing to realize about nature, how at the moment I'm walking along and these plants and these birds are all communicating with each other in incredibly subtle ways, which are not obvious. This brings me up to another point, which is it's really nice if you can find people you can go for a walk with in silence, just tuning into everything. It's been my experience of retreats that most people find this hard to understand. There's such a benefit to it. Just being with someone and taking all the information in from your environment without the need to say anything. That's so powerful. And it's such a neglected form of relationship, actually. Being with someone, just walking, taking it all in. When I've got a moment of choice here, I can either walk back this way or I could take this path, which will take me to allotment, so I can check out the plants and see how they're doing. So I'm going to do the latter. I'm going to go check out the plants. When there's a sudden change in the landscape, the air feels different when I leave the wooded zone behind. And this brings me to my next theme, which is the sense of space. That's what I love about being out here, a sense of open space. Intensely soothing. So here's a thing I'm going to share now. This is such an unusual experience to be in southeast Lancashire and experience so much dryness. We've had many days without rain, and that's pretty much unheard of, especially in the spring, summer months. We normally get lots of rain, but still everything is still so green, still so much life. But to experience this country dry, it's really unusual. And for me, another gift about this time of year is And this rare occasion for it to be so warm as well. It's warm and it's dry. No need to wear many clothes. Really the ability just to welcome the feeling of the air on my skin. It's not biting, it's cold. It's just easy. So here I come across a piece of art. So that's where I am. So I'm also lucky to have some ancient pathways, which are quite a challenge to walk along whilst filming, as it's very uneven. But I love this pathway. It's probably the same 100 years ago, 300 years ago. Now I'm passing some wild rose plants in flower, and it's nice to know that in a month or two's time it'll be time to start picking the rose hips, one of the best source of vitamin C on the planet, available for free. All I've got to do is dry them and then grind them into powder and provide myself with excellent quality vitamin C, which goes really great, particularly in the cat's claw rosehip honey tea. That's a really great one. You can see the film about that. Also goes very well in a power drink. You can see the film about the power drink. Along here are a lot of blackberries and wild raspberry plants, which are great brain food in the summer months from July onwards. In this country we have a great system whereby bits of land are owned by the council and are rented out to people. And so you've got your piece of land and you can grow what you like, construct what you like. And you get to see all different people's creativity and where they choose to organise their space. So I don't have an allotment as such. I rent 4 raised beds and have space in the polytunnel to grow plants in as well. So let's go in and check out the plants. First bed, so on the far right I've a very vibrant sage plant, sage for sagacity, for wisdom. You can make a herb tea of this. And then over to the left I have the strawberries, and there's 1 or 2 which have just ripened. And in between the strawberry plants there are onions. So I'm going to go and check out, see if any of the strawberries are ready to eat. I can see 1 or 2 of them are. One's just right for me, so I'm going to go and eat it now. Wow. Absolutely delicious. The flavour really penetrates my taste buds. That's rich. And over on this side I've got some young spinach plants which I've transplanted from another bed. I have to keep washing them at the moment. And these are a very interesting onion which comes from my friend Ali in Norfolk. And the thing about these is once you get one little clump of them, you plant them out, they grow to a bigger clump. You break up the clump into individual ones, replant them into a new spot, and each one will produce a clump, and that's what's happened here. So they're perennial onions. Once you start them, all they do is they just keep reproducing and reproducing. So you've just got eternal supply of onion material, like spring onions, in your food. And we have an allotment holder that is a pigeon racer. So they're all these are his sheds. And here are some of his pigeons. He lets them out twice a day and they go for a little fly around, and when they're racing, they obviously do something much more substantial than that. And this bed is primarily potatoes, but they're very vibrant and green plants are young spinach, and I've transplanted these out here and put them in the other bed. And the thing about these, they self-seed. So long as I leave one spinach plant to flower and go to seed and just let it do its thing, then the following spring I'll have all these new plants which I can then put wherever I like in my allotment. These are Welsh onions, which you can eat, but I just find them incredibly beautiful. And that's my Asian neighbour's garlic beds. He's a little garlic grower. And over here I've got a mixture of mint and strawberries. And what I've learnt with gardening is you don't really grow what you want to grow, you grow what the land wants you to grow. If you adopt that attitude, you just get success all the time. So this land doesn't like to grow beetroots and carrots, which I love, but it just loves to grow spinach, strawberries, potatoes, mint, onions. So I grow what the land wants me to grow. Bed. So we have potatoes, and there's spinach and Swiss chard, that's ruby chard, and what I'll do is I'll dig them up and plant them somewhere else. Obviously there's just far too many of these plants at the moment. They're taking over the potatoes, so you could give potatoes space. And then over here, yeah, the spinach and the chard has gone mad and has taken over the strawberries, but there's another lovely strawberry ready for picking. Horsetail growing wild inside one's bed. Horsetail being the best source of silica on the planet. You just pick this plant and make a tea out of it. These are very small, they're much bigger elsewhere. That's our idea of how large the horsetail plants grow, and they'll keep growing at least another foot higher than this before they're finished. That's yellow flag iris, beautiful. That's one of the water supplies for the polytunnel, and that's the other. And so these are my happy plants, and you can really see that they are just vibrant, full of life, and thoroughly enjoying their experience of growing in this pot system. There's a courgette flower. This is a nasturtium. The leaves and the flowers are very antibacterial and very good to put in salads. They've got a strong taste, especially the leaves. There's tomatoes, which are in flower, and there are beans, which are climbing and climbing and climbing. They've already got to this height. You can see they're in the flower, so they're doing very well indeed. More courgette, and I've also got marigolds. And although I am growing these plants for food, my main reason to grow them is simply the pleasure and the delight of being with them, watching them grow. So this is a system which is based upon a tank. So that 100-litre tank feeds the system through the pipes, which you can see, the yellow pipe there. And each pot has got what we call the smart valve, and that controls the water flow. So literally that allows enough water to go into each pot to give the plants the water they need. And then when they've got enough, it just simply switches off. Wonderful system. So so effective, so easy to maintain. So I just need to come up here a couple of times a week to make sure that the water tank's filled up and they keep growing. So this is definitely one of my pleasures in life, being with the plants. Taking the side shoots off the tomatoes and doing things to the courgettes. So now it's time to go back. It's that sense of gratitude, appreciation for everything. That's what being outside in nature does for me. And off we go.